Hey everyone, I'm shooting this video today on behalf of the trauma team who has had the opportunity to have some professional development with Dr. Stephanie Grant. And since last time we were able to present to you guys, we had another meeting with Dr. Grant and learned some more things. And while we were there as a team, we came up with a rubric that we think we can all go back to our classrooms and evaluate how trauma informed our classrooms are. So the reason this video is out here is so that we can clarify some of the items that are on the rubric. So you're going to get this rubric. Maybe you already have it. It's upside down. No, it's not. And so I'm going to walk you through some of them to explain, since you weren't at the professional development, some of the things might be like, I don't know how to answer this rubric until maybe I see an example of it. So hopefully by walking through my classroom, you'll gain perspective on the different things that are on this rubric, and then you can maybe answer more honestly about your own classroom since you're informed about them. Hopefully through this video too, you can see that those of us on the trauma committee don't have it all figured out yet. You're going to walk around my room, and I wasn't very trauma. I didn't really have a very trauma-informed classroom, but I'm excited to start shifting that way. So hopefully through this video you will see some ideas, and hopefully it'll get your brain start thinking, so that when you go back to your own classroom and do this, you can see some of the things I showed you in my own classrooms, some of the thoughts that were going through my head, and then maybe you can add in your own little touch to as you evaluate your own room. So let's get going. So the first items you're going to see on the rubric are your floor coverings and your wall colors. I think for the most part, we're all going to kind of be able to check those off as being kind of neutral, not overly stimulating. Most of us have wall colors that were dictated by the district, and the ones that have been able to paint their walls a little bit, for the most part, I don't think are too brightly colored or whatnot. Floor coverings, if you have a bunch of rugs in your classroom that are just really busy, really bright, that might be something you want to think about. But beyond that, the last thing on that first classroom environment part of the rubric is 2/3 of your walls should be like empty space. And I know for a fact that this was actually probably one of my weakest areas. I had pretty much every square inch of my walls covered with something, and a lot of times I wanted to add more stuff, and I was frustrated because I didn't have space to put stuff up. So I have begun already to take things down. Friday after school, I took a bunch of things off my cabinets and whatnot, but I just kind of want to show you this corner of the room, and then I'll kind of quickly buzz you around the room to show you some of the things that I want to do. So looking here, I had a bunch of animals hanging from the ceiling. Maybe some of you that have been in my room, I have always donated as a class $50 each year to or World Wildlife Fund. And so those animals that were stuffed replicas of the ones that we adopted, but that was one thing I took down after I learned about kind of decluttering and making things a little bit more simple and plain. And then this bulletin board over here too, I also had World Wildlife Fund stuff on there, and it just wasn't necessary, so I took it down. I got to figure out what of this stuff I want to keep. A lot of that's kind of just notes for me as I teach, and important things, and maybe I can find a better place so I can make that more basic. But you can see, like underneath my table and stuff too, I got a lot of stuff I need to get off my agenda, and I know we're busy and maybe I can't get to all those things, but I'm going to try to declutter some of the stuff underneath my desk and over here as well. So that's this corner. I'll take you around the rest of my room. All right, for the rest of my room, you're going to notice that some things I'm not ready to part with yet, and it's not like we have to take everything down. So right here I have a bulletin board that I like to refer to quite a bit. So at this point I'm not ready to lose that. My library is obviously going to stay as is. I have shelves up on the wall that's going to stay. Once I get to this wall though, I am going to start thinking about what can I actually remove. That bulletin board there, some of that stuff could possibly go. The stuff along the ceiling there, I have my Capturing Kids Heart Rules, which I like, so I think I'm going to keep those. I might reposition them somewhere. But I have all these growth mindset posters as well that I think are important, but maybe I can bring them out one at a time every once in a while because I actually haven't referred to them once. So I'm going to take those down. My green screen over here, my green screen is actually pretty plain. I know the lights are kind of, in your face, but the green screen itself is a blank place to stare. And then as we go over to my cabinets, like I said, every single one of those cabinets you see had stuff on it. So I already took those things down. You can see on a couple of them there, I do have a few writing things and then our birthdays that I do want to keep up. And then I have my I can statements. But then as I get over here again, you can see almost every square inch of my room was covered with posters and whatnot. So I got to continue to take stuff down over there. As I go around, most of the stuff over there I'm going to have to keep up. I can maybe move some of those reading signpost posters. And again, I've already taken some stuff down, but I definitely do need to take more stuff down because I'm still not at my 2/3 quota, and I might not make it to 2/3, but I'm going to try to remove as much as I can. So hopefully that's helpful to see. Yeah, I got a lot of work to do too. All right, the next item on our agenda on the rubric is to see if you can identify and designate a place in your classroom as a calm down space. So some of our friends need to take breaks and they need to take them outside of the classroom, but could we keep them in the classroom? Could we give them a place to go where they can calm their brain and get back to the lesson? And maybe it would actually benefit, others that are kind of just, on the fence. So for me, I'm at my standing tables because as we were sitting in PD, I was thinking about where in my room this could be, and right away I thought of underneath my standing tables because my kids have been really enjoying taking some pillows underneath there and reading. So I might turn one of them or both of them into calm down spaces where the kids can actually, you can see down here I already have a pillow. They get in down here, hopefully I can fit, and then they can grab their Century stuff. And they fit a lot better than me, and sit here, and maybe they do a balancing bird or their putty or whatnot, and they can just calm down here. Set the timer. I'm going to hopefully have some visuals here, maybe up here. The kids and I had talked, and then I might buy one of those like battery powered switch lights so they can read it, but it looks like I can read it right here too. So this is where I'm thinking, kind of out of the way, they can kind of get lost here for a couple minutes and then rejoin the classroom. So this is where I'm thinking. Where might you be able to designate a spot? Maybe you'll have to change your room around. Maybe you already have a space that will work. So figure it out. So the next item on the rubric is to check your traffic patterns, and if your traffic patterns direct the students towards your calm down spot. So if you have a student who's escalated that needs to kind of calm down, we would rather than have to pass the calm down spot than to exit the room. So for me right now, I have my calm down spot over there, and so right now I can go straight. Sorry for the jiggling here a little bit. And I can go straight to the door so they can kind of get right out. And I like that for many reasons, but I am going to play around with, can I change things a little bit so that maybe they have to go past the calm down spot and maybe go around, and then maybe they'll decide that they can grab something, get under there, and kind of reset themselves. So does the traffic in your classroom, if a kid is escalated, can you direct your student to at least pass or go near the calm down space to maybe prevent them from having to leave the classroom in the first place? The next item on the rubric is to assess your sensory tools. And to be honest, before I had this PD, I had very little. But since then, I kind of went gung-ho on Amazon and bought a bunch of stuff. But one thing, the reason I'm down here is for each of my students, I actually bought a roll of Velcro tape, and I have placed a Velcro strip here for a sensory tool for every student, even at my standing tables and whatnot. I also have made 2 sensory bins, so if I do end up having 2 calm down spots, I'm going to have these sensory bins over by those spots. Kids can grab them quickly, go down to their calm down spot. And so a few of the items I got, I knew nothing about. One of them was a balancing bird, where it helps to kind of calm. A lot of what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the kids to calm their brains. They're so overstimulated by everything that's going on in the classroom. Can we get them to kind of reset their brains so that they can come back and be successful? So a balancing bird, they have to focus on keeping it balanced on your finger. It's actually pretty easy. So a balancing bird, I got that off Amazon, is one thing I have. I also bought like pool noodles, and they actually, I saw this like on Pinterest or something a few years ago, and they are like little stress balls. I bought these little things too. I heard these things are sensory tools, so I put that in there. Don't know if the kids will use them or not. I do have some of those fidget cubes. I'm hoping to get a fidget spinner and a few other things too. I know a lot of us hate fidget spinners, but these fidget spinners will only be used when they're in the calm down spot for a minute or 2 or 5. I got to talk to Dr. Grant about what's the optimal amount of time to have them do their calm down spot. So that, and then I have a timer too, but the timers I bought are louder and I'll get out, and I don't like that, so I got to figure out something else because I definitely want them to only be down there for maybe 2 minutes or so to calm down and then come back to class, or the lesson. So those are a few things I have. I'm building my supply of things. If you have any other ideas, feel free to share them with me. Hi again! I just remembered another sensory tool. I'm being very loud, sorry. I have about 6 pairs of these in my classroom. I brought them into my classroom thinking, you know what, all my kids could use these. And lo and behold, right away, I put them in my room, and Johnny, Susie, everybody was beginning to use them when they were taking a test, or when the room was a little bit louder and they wanted a quiet space to work, or when they were reading, or so on and so forth. So really cool little tool that benefits everybody. Visual cues are just simply visual step-by-step reminders of how to complete a task. So some of our students just get very overwhelmed when there's many tasks, and so if you can think of your classroom and the lessons that you have, or your daily routines, and if there's something where there's multiple steps, it might be wise to create a visual cue for that routine and help alleviate some of that overstimulation. Other visuals that Dr. Grant mentioned were emotional check-ins. So in this video, if you look closely on the wall, you can see there's a poster with a bunch of kids' faces and emotions named next to them. So sometimes when we have a child who is elevated or just can't calm down, they might not be able to verbally tell you how they're feeling, but they can point to this and tell us how they're feeling. Zones of regulation are ways for the kids to tell us, where their state of mind and body, emotions are. And one of those things that she showed us was maybe even doing attendance this way, or the kids come in and they place their stick in the zone that they're in when they come in the morning, maybe after recess, after lunch, they can constantly move it around, and then we can, it'll help us raise awareness of where our students' brains are at, and to be aware of those things, and to maybe to approach those kids differently,
when they're in certain zones. So, and then this is just kind of an artsy way to portray that. And then the next thing here is just a visual schedule. I know I had one in my classroom, but I didn't actually have visuals on it, and I had failed to use it the last 2 years. But now, thinking about a lot of my kids who would really benefit and kind of have a little bit more peace of mind if they knew what was coming next and what the day held. So consider having a visual schedule up for your students.
The next item on the rubric to evaluate is your classroom rules. So just stop, think about it. You know, how good are your rules? Are you modeling them? Are you letting them slip by the wayside? Are they working? So on and so forth. So I know a few things I do that I use consistently are, you know, the capturing kid heart rules. And I do refer to those quite a bit. And so the kids know them. They can recite them back to me. I'll say, hey guys, rule number 5 right now. It's making me hard to teach. It's making it hard for me to teach, yada, yada, yada. And they get it. So we talk about them quite a bit. So the things on there, are they clear? Are they non-negotiable? Are they tied? Maybe they're tied to hero. Are they easy to remember and repeat? Are they taught? Are they practiced? Are you modeling it repeatedly? Something I'm actually kind of proud of that I did after being at the PD was I actually had created a couple anchor charts with some rules, and I included visuals. So I was like, yes, I did something right. One was for flex seating. So I have a bunch of flex seating in my classroom, and I actually let the kids fail using it the first week so that we can have some honest conversations the next week about some of the things that just clearly were either annoying or inappropriate, so on and so forth. And then we come up with rules, and if they can't follow those rules, then they lose that flex seating option. And then the anchor chart below there, I identified a couple issues I was having in my classroom that were just kind of causing me to pull my hair out. One was chatting during times that we shouldn't be. And another one was trying to get the kids to act right away when for transitions. So I would say, hey, get out your, put away your reading stuff and get out your writing stuff, blah, 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 blah. And you know how it goes. Some kids act right away. Some kids, are, either didn't hear you or are good at intentionally ignoring you. And so what I did is I actually bought this doorbell. So here's the little doorbell thing. And I'll give the direction, wait a few seconds, and then I'll press the doorbell. And then by the time that tune is, and then I'll just stop and I'll watch. And by the time the tune ends, all the kids have to be closing a computer, closing up their books, and starting on their way to getting their next thing. Otherwise, I have to follow through with the consequences. So this anchor chart right here, all those things, I sat down, we kind of had a lesson, we built it together, and it's non-negotiable. We came up with the consequences, we explained why these things needed to happen, and the kids know I have to follow through with them, even if I don't want to, even if it's, one of my kids that just never does anything wrong. They know I have to do it, and I follow through. And so it's really increased the likelihood of them following, especially those rules. So just take some time and evaluate your rules. As you look at the last few areas on your rubric, I think they're similar to almost that classroom rules portion where you have classroom consistency and preparing for change and breaks, and you can read the items on here, so I'm not going to go into detail on them. But just take time to actually go home and reflect on them. When you go back to your classrooms and evaluate some of these things, these are ones that personally I'm thinking off the top of my head that I'm not going to be able to really dive deep and really reflect on right before school. So I guess I challenge you to take one of those areas a night and just sit down with a journal. And this is something that's really, really helped me fix some things in my classroom that are just not going well. If something's bugging me,
or things aren't going well, I'll write it down on paper and I'll name it. I'll give it a name. And then once I have it clearly defined, I can just start writing down possible solutions. Some of them are crazy. Some of them, are flops. But a lot of times I'll just list. I'll list the list, and I'm not going to do all of them. But by listing all the different things I think I could do, creative ideas come out, and a lot of times I'm able to identify something that just makes my life so much easier. So take some time, over the course of the next week or two. Take one of these areas each at a night. Take a journal. Write down your honest observation on how you're doing in some of these areas and how they actually work in your classroom, and see and kind of evaluate yourself. And if things aren't great, write down some solutions. What could you do? What could you change? Who could you ask for ideas? Because ultimately, if you do this work and you fix these areas, and you honestly reflect on these areas, and you come up with some solutions, you're just going to make your life easier. You're going to be coming to school happier. You're going to, the kids are going to be happier. You're going to get more done. You're going to go home more energized and less worn out. So take some time, reflect on these areas. I would encourage you to literally write them down and write down some solutions and just improve. So hopefully this video was helpful, and if you have any other questions, feel free to find any of us that are on the trauma committee, and we'd be happy to help you think through some things, maybe get you some resources, do some of the heavy lifting for you. So that's Brent, that's Heidi, that's Alexa, I'm gonna forget somebody, Ken, me, and Tracy. And if I forgot anybody else, I'm sorry. Oh, Amy Jackson too is there. So find us. Hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully you are able to get back to your classroom and to evaluate your classroom and start figuring out ways you can make a more trauma-informed classroom. So peace out.